blame the leaders of this country that would allow this kind of speech. It's irresponsible. They should be held liable. The Republican Party should be demanding Trump resign from running for president. The American people should be demanding this. He's tapped into a community that is misguided. The demographics is an issue, the economics is an issue, it's understood, but they fear, and he builds on their fear. I mean, Donald Trump at the end of the game, he's a businessman. He's using, just like ISIS is using ideology. I mean, this is a little radical, but you have to take it into the context. ISIS uses ideology to recruit. They're not Muslim, they're criminals. And they'll use Islam, a very radical form of Islam, to try to recruit people. Donald Trump is recruiting white racist Americans. And it's up to Americans to say no. This will not be tolerated, not in 2016, for God's sake. We will not tolerate it, we will not accept it, and I hope everybody votes the right way, really.
Yes, I mean, it's out there. I know I have been a victim. Road rage. My house has been egged. Stores that I've gone into for years, and I've lived here since the 60s, all of a sudden I'll go in and depending on the people, they now take a second look. You know, if I'm going to order out, I have to be, in my opinion, I have to be careful what I order. Because I don't know who's doing some of the cooking that may be anti-Muslim. You know, so of course it's probably good because I need to be eating at home more anyway. but you know, you have to think about things like that. I mean, you know, my family, cousins, aunts, they're not Muslim. And they're never calling, you know, Auntie, be careful, because we know you're out there. Because I go into the prisons, I'm out there on the road at dark, you know. So it makes me now become a little bit more cautious of what I do and where I am at certain times. I have my family who would say, call me when you get home, even my friends. And those are things, you know, if I want to come in at 10 o'clock at night, it's just me, I could do that. But now I am aware of, I don't know, a car parked across the street. Are they just a neighbor visiting somebody else, and they see a Muslim, a real one that somebody told me? I've never seen one other than on TV. So am I now going to be a victim, or am I going to be somebody you can talk to and ask questions about Islam? So it's, you know, we just really have to think twice. And the thing about it, unfortunately, with the candidate, a lot of people agree with him. He's just been bold enough to say it. But we have a lot of, as I call it, backseaters who believe that. Because it's not Trump in my neighborhood.
I just wanted to, because ultimately you're in charge of all of this. We have 20 minutes left. So it's up to you to decide, should we move fast? There's so many questions, or do you want to stay on this one? It's up, how do you feel? Please.
I don't agree with what Mr. Trump says, but as an American and as a Muslim, I will defend his right to say it. But I am so hurt and disappointed in the American people because we listen. The people listen. He has a voice because people have ears and they listen. And it's shame on us. Shame on us as Americans that we would allow that kind of speech. Not because he doesn't have the right to get the speech, but because we listen to that garbage that spews from his mouth. So I will defend his right to say what he wants, but I'm just ashamed and so disappointed in us because we listen.
Is it difficult in contemporary American society to instill traditional values in your children? Repeat again. Is it difficult in contemporary American society to instill traditional values in your children?
You know, when it comes to teaching children, I do instill some of what I grew up with. I grew up with not just my faith, but from reading books such as Aesop Fables and reading about great philosophers and making the distinction that when my kids hit real life, they're going to be bombarded with questions in their own minds, and they're going to be in difficult real life situations. So how else to do that? But if we're to lose our traditions that make our culture so colorful, then what are we really left with? And I think I choose by my own free will to hold on to those traditions. Because without them, then we don't have a sense as to where we're going or what we're doing.
I'm just trying to make short questions.
That's actually a long question, but raising children in this society is hard for anybody, I think. It's not something that's exclusive only to Muslim mothers. I think and fathers, we can all attest to that. But there is a compounded issue here. In terms of values, it turns out the Islamic moral code, get this, coincides with American moral values. There is absolutely no contradiction. It's one and the same. So the issue that we do actually have issues with actually is raising them culturally. I think that's where the issues come out. As Muslims, there are many cultures involved, and I think previous generations coming to the United States have also brought in their cultures. And I think the cultural aspect presents an identity, somewhat of an identity crisis with our children. So the issues, if there are issues with our youth, it's not because of the religion. Now, politically, when you talk about, this is another aspect, racism and prejudice, that's a whole different story. Yes, many of our children unfortunately, have to go through that. But that's propagated by adults. I work with youth all the time. I tell you what, I prefer to work with youth. It's refreshing because when I work with my students, I have hope. They are pure in the sense that they don't see, they're colorblind. It's the other older generations that maybe tend to be set in their ways. They don't want to have an open mind. But, and it's this that we really have to take a second look at, because I think every one of us should be held accountable. When a child suffers, regardless of who they are, whether they be in Afghanistan or they be in America, we have a say in that. We voted in somebody who advocated the policy that perpetuated that type of hate. So going back to the leaders, I mean, it's incumbent on us. A candidate is as strong as his constituency, his voters. It's time for us to own our country and really, really take pride in who represents us. Because I tell you what, they're not doing a good job.
This is a very important question. What do you love about Islam? I want to be inspired by your words to love Islam too. What do you love about Islam?
Everybody should say something.
Why don't you each just do a very quick comment? That would be great. That's a good idea. Each of you just say one thing.
Well, for me, it was about what I consider the purity of a religion and the peace and harmony that it brought to me. And like I said, my parents were not Muslims, so as I read and studied, that became my inner peace. And that is why I use the term reverted or converted, as some of you may say. And that is why I am what I am now.
Islam to me illuminates my life. It influences my decisions. And it's played a big role during times when I had hardships in my life. And I felt that it's provided a lot of hope for me.
Well, I think it's hard to have one thing, but there's a sort of an inner strength. I think that it brings into my life in the sense that even if it's sort of shows hard truths about myself in some contexts, it's like I'm strong enough to overcome them, and I know that because of it.
What I love about Islam, well, there's a lot of different things, but one that comes to mind would be
just understanding and kindness and love and loving one another as human beings in whatever form we are. And I think that's what I love most about it.
In addition to everyone saying, I believe in every word, Islam means submission to God. As many of you all know that Muslims pray 5 times a day. That's my connection to God. That's my lifeline right there. So we can, just like we can complain to someone or say something, that's a very strong feeling and a connection there. Also, one of the scholars mentioned the sweetness of prayer, and I couldn't ever understand it. And then when I started praying and getting emotional and asking God as if we are right in front of Him, we don't need any agent or any connection other than Him. It's direct from one to the other. And He listens. He says, even if you need a shoelace, ask me. And that's exactly what I felt, and then the tears just start rolling out, and then you know that there's someone else responsible for everything in the world. Thank you.
You know, I have friends from all walks of life and from different creeds and different faiths. And I think one of the reasons that we have tight friendships is because I've always professed and I've always said, if you truly believe in your heart of hearts that your moral fabric or your religion or your creed makes you absolutely the best person you can be, the best human being you can be, then you're doing something right. For me, that's what Islam does for me. Islam motivates me, Islam excites me, Islam inspires me, Islam emancipates me, and ultimately, and most of all, as Islam empowers me. So, thanks.
That's a hard question, but I think the thing I love and maybe the thing I hate most about Islam is the responsibility. I was raised Southern Baptist and I had friends who were Catholic. There was always a preacher or a priest that was in between me and God. Oh, he told me I could do that, so it's okay. The good part of Islam is I am responsible. No one can tell me you have to do this because God said so. I get to decide that God said so. I get to decide this is how I please God, and this is how I will, hopefully God will find me pleasing. It also is difficult because this is how God finds, I might not like it. This is not going to be easy for me to do. I'm going to have to pray for this person because that's what God wants me to do. I'm going to have to keep my heart and keep peace in my heart for these people that I'm angry at. That's hard for me to do. But that's what makes what I find in the religion, it holds my feet to the fire. And no matter what, I know God will love me. As much as I fail, I know God will love me because I'm trying. And I have faith in that, and that faith fills me, and it gives me joy, even when I hate what I've asked to do. Even when I don't want to do that one, but I know that's what will also fill my heart, and I know, and that's why Islam, to me, that's the beauty of Islam for me.
Well, they stole my thunder, but I have to tell you that Islam meant something different for me as I grew. As a child, as a young lady, as a mother, as a grandmother now. And in every profession it means something different. But right now, in this current state, it definitely means empowerment. I have found great empowerment in God and in Islam.
I grew up Muslim, and Islam to me is the straight path that keeps my heart strong. No matter in any mode I am, whether I'm sad or happy, rich or poor, keeps my heart strong and in peace with everything.
I grew up in a very restricted religion where there was a number of people between me and God. When I read the Quran a couple of times, I did this a number of times, I found in it a blueprint for living a good and loving life. But mostly I found that there was no intermediary between me and God. I could talk directly to God, and I felt at times as though God was talking directly to me. And that's why I love it so.
Okay, this is a very... This is an unusual question, and say whatever you think. It has occurred to me and some friends that we could show solidarity and support for Muslim and Muslim women by wearing a hijab. Would you find this supportive or disrespectful?
I would find that very supportive. Very supportive. Just to experience that, I think everybody should put their, to try to experience everybody else's experience is wonderful.
I don't feel very good about that, honestly. I don't think that's the best form of expressing solidarity, is to try to experience someone else's oppression. I think there are other forms of solidarity that could be more useful. I mean, I really appreciate the question, and I appreciate the intention behind it, which I think is to express solidarity, which is really wonderful. But there are other ways you can show up as an ally, I think, to Muslims, if that's what you want to do, and to Muslim women, and that you can be a friend, that don't involve necessarily kind of taking that on and trying to experience that. And that's just my personal opinion.
Rahana, how do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel? Do you have any feelings about it?
No, I don't really have any feelings about it. I mean, I appreciate that people would try to do that, but I think that really understanding why you wear the hijab is something deeper, and I don't necessarily see it as, like Fatima said, something that, you know, is supportive. Well, it is supportive in some ways, but I think there's other ways of being supportive.
Yeah, I can understand that question to the point where hijab symbolizes a representation of Muslim women, but on the larger meaning, invite a Muslim over for tea, you know? Yeah, that's not hard. We don't, some of us don't hesitate in reaching out and speaking to you. So, you know, we're not scary people. We're just as human as anyone else. We'd love to have, you know, coffee and donuts. We have a friend, Mona Haider, who is currently in Connecticut right now. She's come on Al Jazeera, and she's really humbly just spreading all this love and understanding and trying to build bridges between differences, and I think that's the best way to go.
I would just like to add that I think, you know, I can see the need for some type of support in that area, but by the other token, I know I wouldn't want you walking with me and you're hurt physically because you're trying to show your support by wearing hijab, or face some of the difficulties that we see, that we encounter. I worry about your safety. You know, I mean, that's how I look at it. I'm ready for it. I'm kind of like, you know, Martin Luther King. When he made the speech, he wanted to live a long time. I do too. You know, but on the other hand, my thing would be more my concern for your safety and some of the other things that you could encounter. Perhaps looking at something, some type of ribbon as a form of support rather than actually wearing the hijab. You know, and then also if you have other friends who don't really know that much about Islam, you can say, you know, kind of like the sister said about inviting people, so why don't you come over, we have a girl-to-girl thing at my house, at my organization. I would, you know, see that more in a more positive way. Because, you know, for me, I'm going to protect me, but if I see you being endangered, I'm going to have to protect you. And you may, you know, I'm an old lady. I mean,
There's nothing old about you.
I can't move like I used to. So I would rather you maybe look at some other type of thing, like I said, a ribbon or a bandana, you know, something. Okay.
You know, but, you know, I can understand what the sisters are saying. They probably think it's shallow. But I think if it's a door opener for people, you know, we're the Muslim women right now are most likely the first ones to be attacked because we wear our Islam on our head. So we're recognized. If it is an opportunity for another woman to feel how other women feel prejudiced, I mean, I have 9 kids, not all of them wear the hijab. I have one of my daughters who wears a hijab. When I walk into the room, they'll notice the prejudice before I do. So it's okay for people, even if it's as simple as putting on a hijab and trying to experience what Muslim women go through. It's okay. And of course we need more interfaith dialogue, we need more conversations like this, we need more interactions, we need to understand that we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your colleagues, we are part of this family here. We're all one family. I definitely think it's a positive. It definitely is.
And I didn't mean to say like it's not a positive intention. I meant like if you want to express solidarity, maybe, you know, talk to Muslims in your community or call your local mosque and say like, hey, I'm a lawyer, how could I support? Or hey, I'm a teacher, you know, is there something I can do in my classroom? Or meaning maybe there's something that's more useful or that is more of a way of creating change rather than to just take on that appearance per se. I think that's what I meant.
Okay, the last question is a really self-evident answer. What can we do to support less fear about Muslims in Santa Fe? By your coming today, you have done it. Thank you for coming. Please thank the women.